Good evening, everybody. I am delighted that we have got Jonathan Hay back for a part two. If you missed the part one, it was phenomenal. Not only did Jonathan regale us with his stories of some of the huge names he's worked with over the years, but also we went through the emotional journey, the trauma he experienced. It's still in my head to this day. I can't imagine facing almost being unalived in his own home, what he went through. If you missed part one, people, go back and watch it. And Jonathan, he looks like he's in a really better place this time from last time, and he's going to fill in a lot more of the details. And also, he's been talking about Johnny Depp, what Johnny Depp's nephew, who he's in business with, told him, which was absolutely mind blowing. I've never heard anything like these allegations before. So please support him. I'll put his Instagram link in the live chat now. His X is down there in the description box if you're watching on replay, as is the link to Jonathan Part 1. So there's the Instagram in the chat. Please get your questions in. And thank you, Tammy. Yes, Mr. Hay is well and thriving. Your energy is completely transformed from last time, I think.
Yeah.
And thank you for coming on again, man.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Talking about the home invasion with you, I went into that dark place, that dark space again. It was like you said, it was very emotional, but it was very freeing. I felt so good afterwards to speak about that, and it just kind of opened me up, right? Plus my girl's here, which is amazing. Diana, shout out to Diana Pagan, right? She's here with me, so that's always fantastic. Last time she wasn't. So there's that. And, speaking about the home invasion on April 20th, that's when it happened of all days, right? It happened on 4/20/2017, which I have tatted on my hand here, right? On 4/20 of this year, right, which is less than a month away, we're releasing the book. So on the 8-year anniversary. So try to undo, the trauma and stuff like that, right? So try to change from a trauma period, because I used to love 4/20 like everyone else. Now when everybody, because people don't realize it, so they're always like, happy 4/20, happy 4/20. Just like, bro, do you even realize what happened? So
Congratulations, man, on getting, you sweat blood to write a book. And by the time you're about to launch it, it's such a big deal because you've invested so much of your life into it. So, that's great that you've reached this point almost.
yeah, for sure. And I talked about the book a little bit in the last interview. We can't reveal anything yet, because like doing these interviews and stuff, which is shout out to Jaguar, right, for really like putting me on the map, right? She saw me on Tisa Tells and then pulled me into, this podcast, YouTube world. And like once I did that, I caught the attention of some very influential people. And so I spoke on the last interview that I did. I was like, it's coming out through a billionaire, and everybody started hitting me. Oh, it's Kanye West. Kanye West must be the guy that's putting out your book. So I can't say yes or no. Maybe it is, maybe it's not. But, shout out to Kanye West. I know he's getting a lot of flack right now, and maybe it's going to upset a lot of people. I think he's very misunderstood, but I'm a huge fan of him creative wise,
Yeah, and shout out to Jag as well.
Shout out to Jag,
And
always.
such a powerful speaker. She's
So
created so many
powerful.
enemies because she's over the target. And the
Yeah,
more over the target she is, the more obvious it is that she's, exposing the truth. And I would
right.
love to get Jag and you on at some point in the future together to have a conversation. I think that would be phenomenal.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
I would love to do that.
So if you're watching Jag, let us know if you're up for that, please. And much love from the UK. All right, so we were going to start out by getting into this Johnny Depp story that I've never heard before. Blew my
Right.
mind what you were saying. And I think my viewers, a lot of them are going to be hearing this for the first time as well. So let's set the table. You were in business with his nephew, is that correct?
That's correct. So his nephew, see, I'm adopted, right? So uncles, aunts, nephews, like all that is a little bit weird to me because I don't really have any blood, right? So like my uncles and aunts that I've raised with all my life. So anyways, I'll just explain it like this. Johnny Depp's sister, he has two sisters. Christy Demrosky is his manager, right? And that's his sister. And his other sister, her son is named Billy Rassel. And I met him in Kentucky, right? Because I was pretty much raised in Louisville, Kentucky, my whole entire life, and he's in Lexington, Kentucky, because he was running Johnny Depp's mother. Johnny Depp's mother was Betty Sue, and she had a farm in Lexington, Kentucky. And so Billy was running the family farm and taking care of Depp's grandmother. So we used to go out to the family farm because Lexington is like a 45-minute drive away from Louisville. So we would go all the time, to his family farm. And then we started working and doing projects together. And he would bring his uncle in. The first thing we did was, if people Google it, it's out there. It was like in 2011 or 12, we did this Kentucky project because Johnny Depp is from Kentucky. He's from Owensboro, Kentucky. And he would always spend a lot of Christmases with his mother in Lexington, Kentucky, right? So we did like this Kentucky CD at the time, and Johnny Depp was involved. We had like the Nappy Roots and like other influential Kentucky people on it. And that was all right. But, it didn't do what it should because Johnny Depp was involved, right? It should have been a huge hit, it would seem. But his nephew would always tend to screw things up, right? And then we did 4 other projects together, always bringing his uncle in, screw things up, and it was always his fault. And so this has been going on for like over 10 years, Sean. So during the pandemic, right after we did Eric B. and Rakim's Follow the Leader Reimagined as Jazz, that went #1 on Billboard, and we would take older songs and reimagine them in different genres, like switch up. So we did after we hit #1 and we were like on the Billboard charts for 11 weeks, then we did the Notorious Big project, and we reimagined Biggie songs, which are very violent, as you know, and very aggressive, as house and techno music. And we ended up signing with his estate, which was part owned by Diddy, right? Because Diddy and Biggie were hand in hand, right, with his career. So when I did that project, and we were like on Rolling Stone, Spin Magazine, we were hot. Billy contacted me, and he was like, my uncle and I want to do Marilyn Manson reimagined, right? Because Marilyn Manson and Johnny Depp are best friends, like best friends. So I went out to LA, talked to Billy, and we talked about putting it together. And then I flew him to Dallas, and we were in Dallas talking about the whole project, putting it together. His uncle's going to be involved, which is crazy. I wasn't a huge Marilyn Manson fan, right? I was, I didn't know a whole lot about him. As I started to get into his music, I was like, oh my gosh, this guy's insane, right? So good, and then I go to Brooklyn and I start working with J-Pat from the Knox, who signed to Scooter Braun, and this DJ named Mink, who's part of Circo Loco, which is huge in like Ibiza and Tulum. He's real big in the house and rave scene, right? And so we're in Brooklyn, and we're doing this amazing project. It's authentic, like house and techno music, because I'm sure you know about house music and stuff like that. When people say EDM, it's like, yeah, don't say EDM. House and techno is not EDM. Totally different. That's what the heads say in Brooklyn, right? So we're going to all these underground parties We're getting the sounds that we want, Marilyn Manson. So then he invited us to come to LA to work at Johnny Depp's home studio, which is in Hollywood on a cul-de-sac, right? And he owns the whole cul-de-sac, all mansions all across the thing, except one house in the front that Johnny hasn't been able to buy for like 25 years. It's some doctor who's like squatting. So he's got all the homes, like 9 homes where he has his family members, staff, and everything else. So we're in his studio. Obviously, I'm excited, to be in his studio and his home and see his art and everything else. And we're doing Marilyn Manson, and we go back to the Airbnb, and we had all these artists started coming in during the pandemic because everything was shut down. And as they're coming over, everybody's just buzzing, right? They have, of course, because they get to work with Johnny Depp, they get to work with Marilyn Manson, because, he was going to have Marilyn Manson on the project as well, Johnny Depp on the project, and some of his friends, like Depp plays in the group Hollywood Vampires. So we get like Alice Cooper and Dave Grohl and like all these, insane people. I mean, it's Depp. He's connected to everybody, right? And so many musicians, like they rent out his studio and they come, like the Red Hot Chili Peppers, Metallica, Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg. They go to his studio, and that's what we were doing, right? So as we're going on, we also had a remote studio where we keep all the artists, right? Because we had like 20, 30 different artists who was just going organically who wanted to be involved. And it was like American Idol. We were auditioning people to do parts, and it was just buzzing. But we couldn't take all those people over the liability over to Depp Studio. It could just be me, one of my business partners, Billy, and the other producer, this guy named 41X, right? And so we would record all these tracks and to take over to Depp Studio. So as we pretty much take all the tracks that I did in Brooklyn, all the stuff that I'm doing in LA, and then all of a sudden, like I said, everybody's buzzing. The allegations come out about Manson during the Me Too movement, and he was canceled, right? And everybody started to come down on him. So of course, that kills our project, because Depp was struggling at the time because of the Amber stuff that was on the horizon. And he had, the Pirates of Caribbean stuff wasn't happening. And it was just a bit crazy. We have all these people overexcited, and now everybody's like, what's going on? What's going on? The project is like dead, Sean. And it was like so depressing because we had got investors. Everybody's throwing money at it because it's Depp, like people from Dallas, people from LA. And now it's like, okay, now what do we do? So it was Depp and his nephew's idea to say, okay, let's take some of these tracks, let's save them, and let's turn it into Nirvana. And he was like, Nirvana reimagined. And he was like, I can get Dave Grohl on that, because Depp was good friends with Dave Grohl. And I'm a huge fan of like Nirvana, right? Like I love Nirvana, Kurt Cobain, obviously, Dave Grohl, love the Foo Fighters. So we went to tell the news of everybody, all right, we're shifting gears, like in the moment's note, because, I'm sure you've been there where you have to keep the excitement of the investors, of the label, of the people. We have to keep them excited. So we switch gears immediately. Hey, we're doing Nirvana now. So it's like, oh my gosh. So we redid everything. We did Nirvana, and everybody's like partying in these Airbnb houses. It's like crazy. Like everything that you could think is like crazy. I mean, people talk about Diddy parties, Depp parties are not as like freak. There's no freak offs, but it's over the top, right? And the celebrities that come by, that stop in because it's a Depp project, right, was insane. So you would see the most craziest people like, is that really Leonardo DiCaprio? Is that really Matthew McConaughey? Is that, you know what I mean? Is that really Robert Downey Jr., who was like stone cold sober and was preaching to everybody about how they should be straight? But it's like Iron Man is here, and we're all on one, right? Like, because it's house music, techno music, and the Biggie estate is over there involved because Depp was filming, he had filmed that movie City of Lies, where about the murder of Johnny Depp. So it was all like tied together, and it was a beautiful thing. And then one day, Billy, as he's always messed up his whole entire life, I'm the one that has all these artists out here. We have contracts with all these investors. Billy had had a stroke like a month before, and he was supposed to be like stone cold sober. And I would tell him, like, Billy, you can't, don't party, don't party. He's like a kid, even though he's like almost my age. He's like a kid. You had to like parent him. Billy gets so obliviated drunk. And I was frustrated with Billy because he lived in Thousand Oaks, right? Which is an like 45-minute drive with traffic, hour and a half to DEPP studio in Hollywood. So we would always be like waiting. And, it's like, Billy, why aren't you living on the property that DEPP is telling like you to go to with your children and his woman, his wife, and me? Instead of us doing all this traveling, instead of renting out all these Airbnbs, why don't we just stay in one of the other houses with DEPP that DEPP is offering? And so Billy starts bringing that up. He starts crying, and he says that he doesn't want DEPP around his children, nowhere near. He won't bring him to his house, won't bring him to the cul-de-sac because of what he experienced growing up as a kid, which he was, I don't know, I want to say the right word, but I don't know how to say it, but it was very inappropriate. He went through some very disturbing things, right? And he quit the project, left the project like the next day after he was like sober. I was like, Billy, oh my gosh, I can't believe you went through that. Thank you for sharing that with me. And he's like, dude, the project is done and we need to quit this whole entire project. I'm like, okay, we need to give back a whole lot of money. What happened to, Nirvana? Like, we've already told all these kids, all these people who are involved, what do we do? And he was like, I don't care. It's over. So I immediately leave that Airbnb. We get a different Airbnb, and we continue to record without Billy and without DEPP, because I wanted to finish the project for the artists, for the investors, and everything else to follow through. Right. And just like, I was hoping that eventually, that Billy would come back around, and he never did. So the project started to really buzz. Forbes did a story on it. Grammy.com started supporting it. And I'm in Dallas in a hotel, and I get a FaceTime, right? It says Billy. I get a FaceTime, and there is his uncle right there. And his uncle grabs the phone, puts it up, and was like, if you continue with this project, I'm going to break your jaw in 2 places. I was like, oh, okay. That was weird because this is Johnny Depp, and I know what Billy had told me. And so I'm like, I'm going to finish the project because we started out. He was like, this is our IP. This is our intellectual property. I said, the splits remain with Billy and I. Even though he wasn't going to be involved, I'm still giving him the 50% because I wanted to follow through with the project. I couldn't, rip off all these investors and everything else. I had to finish the project, and he kept getting violent. You put that out, I'm telling you, I'm gonna ruin your career. I'm gonna shut this project down. And Billy's just sitting there listening, watching, and I'm just like shocked that this is happening. Right? The threats continued and continued and continued. And sure enough, they did exactly that, because Johnny Depp was working with this publicist named Melissa Nathan. And Melissa Nathan has been exposed over the last few months over the Blake Lively situation. And Melissa Nathan also worked with the Biggie estate, and she also worked with Drake. So she had like this huge vendetta against me. And all of a sudden, all the projects were gone. And I was like, holy shit. The label pulled out. The investors were pissed off. Everybody was upset. They did like a smear campaign. And I'm like, dude, I am just trying to finish the music and everything that we told everybody that we were going to do. whatever happened between you and your uncle, that's your business, right? And so I thought about this when I was talking about this on Real Life Street Stars. I thought about it and I thought, should I have aired out his trauma and what his uncle was doing him as a child? Is that really my place? But then I thought, Sean, there's always casualties of war. And this is a war. Because if Depp is going to be inappropriate to his nephew, think about all the other people he's probably been inappropriate with. And his nephew and his family knows, and they all stay employed by him. He dresses up as Captain Jack Sparrow and goes everywhere. He's got Disney. The kids love him. He does all these events. People trust him. You know, like Johnny Depp made a comment that said, you know, that I let Marilyn Manson change my daughter's diapers. And so it is so weird that, and when you're around Marilyn and Johnny together, it is dark, man. It is like Marilyn Manson is dark. He's just not like his music. In person, his name is Brian, right? So when he come to the studio, he wouldn't come as like Brian, he was coming as Marilyn Manson. They were dark, and there was so much drugs and alcohol and also, to go back, I'm sorry to bounce all over the place. Melissa Nathan was involved in the smear campaign against Amber during that trial. And that's one of the things that's came out, right? Because she's the one who set up all the TikTok stuff. She's the one to help bring Johnny Depp back. Everybody wants Johnny Depp to come back, but the guy's a scumbag. So I felt better about airing his personal stuff out because, like I said, how many other victims are there? What if I don't say anything, right? What if I don't say anything and there's so many people out there, so many children that are being abused? You know, he's part of the upper echelon of people that are like over people like Diddy. Because there's this one story, I'm sorry to just keep rambling, that Billy takes us, right, my friends, he takes us in Hollywood. We go to this grocery store, like a Publix, like a Kroger, and we're going in the back, right? And we're walking through like the back of a restaurant, and then we're in a cooler. I'm like, what the hell is this? Right? And then the cooler goes down, like it goes through a door, goes down an elevator. And then we're in the bottom of this floor, and it looks like a casino, right? And they sit us down in this chair. It's like super nice, super upscale. And then this woman brings in 10 women. It was like, take your pick. Like it was seafood. And so I have like 8, 9 guys with me. So they're like, oh, her. And I felt really weird because I was like, where are we? Right. And they didn't do anything. They just sat with them for an hour. And that moment was like nothing I've ever seen. So this girl that ended up sitting next to me, I was like, what are you doing? You know, like this is your job. Like, where are we? And she was like, oh, only have a minute. I was like, look, here's my Instagram, right? What's your Instagram? I can't give it to you. Here's my phone number. Call me. Let's talk. You know, because I was like, I was interested to know who she was and where are we? I've never seen anything like this. So the manager, whatever, gets the girls out, come out. Your 2 hours are up at the table. We leave. And then I started to think about that like a year later, 2 years later, 3 years later. I've been thinking about that moment. Like we were in a place where they traffic women for sure. I saw it because these people were from out of town. They couldn't speak very English, and they brought him in to sell off. Like, take your pick, take your pick. And those are Depp's people. That's Billy's people. That's the type of places that he goes to. Do you understand what I'm saying? So that's why I feel like I got to speak out because what people have done about Diddy, I think Depp is much worse. Like, much worse because he's connected on different places than Diddy is. So sorry to ramble on. That's all.
No, that's
you know?
great. We love it when you come out the
So
gate with a 20-minute story. That's what we want. It makes my life easier. So a few people in the chat are
it's great.
saying, you know, what is the credibility of the nephew? Is there anything corroborating this? Etc. You know, how reliable is the nephew?
So the nephew, Depp raised him because the nephew, his father wasn't around. So it's a close-knit family. It's Depp's sisters and then his nephew. And he's also his manager to this day. And if my uncle was inappropriate to me, I wouldn't work for him. I don't care if it was Johnny Depp. I don't care who he was. I would air him out. I would fight him. I would call the police. I would do something, right? So, of course, it's credible to me because if you knew Billy his whole life, the trauma and the way that he acts, then you can kind of understand it. And there's no reason that I could never figure out why he lived in Thousand Oaks and he would never stay on Depp's property because he didn't want his kids to be around Depp and to experience anything that he went through, right? And Billy and his uncle are always together, always with Manson, always partying, always with strippers. Like I said, they took us to that underground thing of a restaurant where there were women that were being like, felt like auctioned off, like, which one do you want? Which one do you want? Which one do you want? I've never seen anything like that. And it was a very, like I said, it was a very upscale, plush, lavish place. And that's the type of stuff that they're into. Like being around the family that long, I started to see how weird it was. You know, like Christmas, it was like Depp would come over to his grandmother's house. It's going to be a white Christmas. And he would throw cocaine. I'm talking about like everywhere. And everybody's getting messed up. And there's strippers everywhere. Like there's strippers from Lexington, strippers from Louisville, and Depp would just have all of them around. I mean, he's Depp. All the girls are going to be around him, right? Good looking guy, huge superstar. No Diddy. But I mean, so I don't know. So I feel like if I'm out here talking about Diddy and I'm talking about Jay-Z, but I'm not talking about Johnny Depp because I've got some criticism that's like, why is this white guy only talking about people of color? And I take that in and I think about it. And it wasn't because of anything other than the fact of, you know what? There's the biggest one I know, Johnny Depp, right? And his family and what I've been through. And they need to be exposed. And if there's anybody out there that's been a victim of Johnny Depp, come forward, speak out, right? He's weak right now. Disney doesn't have him yet. And if any Disney executives are working, go interview his family, go interview Billy and see who you're putting out there in front of these kids as Captain Jack Sparrow. So that's why I feel like I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. And I know Billy's upset over this, and I'm sorry to Billy. You know, we have a long history, but like I said, there's casualties of war, Sean, and we are at war here, right? And we're at war to protect our children, and we're at war to protect the world. And if Billy's got to suffer some shame, then so be it, because Johnny Depp needs to be locked up and thrown in prison. And
All right, all right, no, you know, you're doing great, and we salute your bravery speaking out like this about these people. So we've got almost 1,500 watching live across all the platforms. If you just tuned in, we've got Jonathan Hay. We've got his links in the description, his Instagram, etc. And he's talking about Billy Depp's nephew confiding in Jonathan to something bad that happened to him at the hands of Depp, allegedly when he was a young person. Just to clarify for the viewers. And did Billy indicate to you, and this is based on what Billy told Jonathan, they were in business together, with Depp and Marilyn Manson was hanging out. Did Billy express to you how old he was when these bad things happened to him, allegedly?
So they were in Miami. He lived in Miami. Billy did with Depp before he got famous. So if you trace it back, like, you know, he went out to do Wes Craven, right? I think that was the first film. So it was before that, up until LA. This was like his father figure. It seemed to go on for a long time. You know, it happened over and over and over again. And Billy still works for him this day. His sisters, who are his manager, they know what kind of person he is, right? They know what kind of person Marilyn Manson is. They know the stuff that they're into. And everybody just accept it, because the thing about Johnny Depp is, what he would always say is, he didn't want to be an actor. He wanted to be a musician, you know, and that's all he wanted to do. So he was, you know, he would always play on music, which was awesome. Like, I was always blown away by working with Johnny Depp, as being a fan of all his movies. Like, some of the greatest movies of all time are Johnny Depp. But when I started to see these things over the years, and then when Depp says that he's going to break my jaw in 2 places, and he's threatened me for continuing on with a project where we had take investors' money, I was like, okay, well, are you guys going to pay him back? You know, what are we going to do? Right. And so Depp was, you know, Depp would always be on FaceTime, because me and Billy were always together, and always be showing like his pounds of weed and his ounces of cocaine and all this stuff like that. He's a complete maniac, you know, when it comes to substances. More so than anybody I've ever seen.
So KP wants
And
to know
our houses,
how did you
in the
meet
houses that
Billy?
we'd rent, he would he would send packages of so much stuff where everybody, I was never a person that's into C, right? I'm never into that. I'm more into psychedelics and like DMT and like positive stuff for trauma, and like the leaf. I'm into that kind of things. I'm not into that other stuff. But he would send that for everybody. So it was just like this huge party of, like, you know, wild and out of control. Sorry,
KP
what was your
wants to know
question?
how KP wants to know how you met Billy in the first place.
So it was in Kentucky, like I said, and weirdly enough, I think it was, I met Billy. He invested with this guy named Fred McKnight, Brian McKnight's brother, the singer. And he invested in this project called Undiscovered Live. And Undiscovered Live ended up being some kind of scam, right? And Fred McKnight lived in Orlando. So when I was doing the Rihanna project in 2005, in 2004 and 2005, that's when I heard of Billy's name. So I would see, like, they used to have like these message boards because of like Whitney Houston. Like, he had a message board, and I saw one of Billy's posts, and it just kind of stuck. Like, wow, this is really interesting, because where we did the Rihanna project was in this neighborhood called Sand Lake in Orlando. It's outside of Disney World. It's really like gated, and Justin Timberlake lived there. Like, you'd see him cut his grass, and Fred McKnight was there. Brian McKnight was there. And that's where we were working on the Rihanna project, right? So that's how he got on my radar. And then in Kentucky, I met him at, as all places, KFC, Kentucky Fried Chicken. And then we started talking. He was like, "Is that your Cadillac?" And I was like, "Is that your Jeep outside?" And then we both went outside, and he was like, "Do you smoke?" I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Get in." And then we just, you know, started talking, started hanging out, and we started working together. And like I said, we worked together for like 10 years. So it was always weird. So as like the fact that Billy and Depp would allow all these people to invest money and all these artists to be broken, like, I put in so much work, Sean. And then to have that publicist, Melissa Nathan, stop the project and then block everything that I'm doing. Like, I think I told you on the last show, I was like, for a few years, I was like blacklisted, man. Like if it wasn't for my girl who's right here, I wish she'd get on and say hi to everybody, but she won't because she's shy. Like she held me down and put me back together. Because the whole time I was like, I'm irrelevant. I kept saying, I'm blacklisted. I, I kept telling her like all the time, I've got enemies that I don't even know who exist. And I didn't know it was Melissa Nathan. And there's a story that I did with this writer. Her name is Kat from ABC News a few weeks ago, where I talked to her about what I went through with Melissa Nathan. People can Google that, and through Drake and Drake's baby mama Sophie. She caused problems all across the board where I was gone. Like I used to have TMZ, I used to have CNN, I used to be at the top. And then all of a sudden everything was taken away. And I was living with my girl in Uptown, New York, right? Just broken, depressed, and couldn't get anything going. And that's when I started I was like, you know what, I'm gonna get my life back together. And I saw something that Jaguar was doing, and I was like, I'm gonna come out and speak as well. And then, it brought me back. That's why I'm so appreciative of Jaguar, right? Because a lot of people will tell me like, she's this, she's that. To me, she's a person who helped me get my life and my career back together. So to me, she'll always be an angel.
The
So
more garbage
if
people talk
Jaguar
about
sees this,
people,
thank you, Jaguar, so much.
the more garbage people talk about people, the more they're over the target, and it's just a sign of success. So Pam wants to know: are you concerned that DEPP will sue you?
No, listen, I would love a lawsuit. I would love a cease and desist because then that's going to go on TMZ and that's going to get traction to CNN. And then he's going to be on the hot seat and under the radar because he's going to have to prove that this isn't true. And he's going to have to prove that this isn't real. And that'll bring it out in public where more people can come forward, right? Because all it takes is one, right? Just like the tipping point. You got a mountain of rocks. Keep pulling away the rocks, the pebbles, and eventually the mountain is going to fall. Just like they did Diddy. So when I say Jay-Z's next, that needs to be next.
So when DEPP allegedly said to you he was going to break your jaw in 2 places, did you think he would follow through, or that was just bluster?
Once again, he was very angry. They have wild tempers. So does Billy. Wild guys, country boys from Kentucky. They call themselves rednecks, white trash, right? That's what they call themselves, right? It's exactly how they act. Nah, because if Dev would have swung at me or tried to do anything, Sean, I would have been paid, right? Like, I mean, the lawsuits and everything that would happen is like, I don't care if I take a beating, but at the same time, I mean, he's like 15 years older than me. I'm a big guy myself. I also have trauma and anger issues. I would love to fight Depp. You know, he's a coward, especially if he touches children and all the other stuff. He's a coward. I would love to fight Depp.
So are we going to go
And
for Diddy and
listen,
the Drewski next?
yeah, but listen, and if I couldn't, if Depp got me, hopefully Jaguar will come in because Jaguar can take care of Depp for me, right? So, anyways, Jaguar, if
Do
you're
you want
watching, I might need your help. You know,
to do you want to go over to Drewski and Diddy next, or?
absolutely, absolutely, for sure. So, look, I
Okay.
saw the Drewski statement that he's like, I wasn't after he came out of the Diddy allegations, and I saw this statement from clearly his publicist that I wasn't famous at the time these allegations were made. And I started to think, well, that's the grooming phase doesn't start when you're famous. The grooming is going to start when you're not famous, in my opinion, and bring you up and help make you famous. Right. So when he says that, I wasn't even famous, I was living at my mother's house. Well, when you got people who are monsters like Diddy, Depp, Jay-Z, allegedly, then that's when the grooming phase would start. right? So I thought that was a bunch of crap. And then a lot of people on Twitter were like, "Yeah, he wasn't even famous then." But you've seen the videos of how close they were, right? So, and the stuff that they were doing, and Drewski has admitted to being at Diddy parties constantly, right? He was always around. So I think he without question, was he involved in any kind of assaults or anything? I have no idea, but he definitely saw a lot of things, right? And then the guy who put Drewski on is a guy from my hometown, Louisville, Kentucky, named Jack Harlow, the big rapper, and he has a song where he mentions Diddy. Diddy performed for him. You know, I'm working with the same camp of Jack Harlow. And they would always tell me that him and Diddy were like smashing, right? They were in a relationship, which I was like, wow. So it was shocking to me to know that, you know, Jack Harlow and Diddy were in a relationship at one time. And I'm not going to even say allegedly because we run with the same circles from Louisville, Kentucky. We're not talking about Hollywood. We're not talking about New York. We're talking about Louisville, Kentucky. Very small, right? I'm talking about people, his family, Harlow's producers, Harlow's studio have all said, not in a bad way, but him and Diddy were, you know, having sex. So that's how I was like, let's not put the heat on only Drewski. Let's also put the heat on Jack Harlow to come out and speak. Because see, that's what's happening. We need some of these big celebrities continue to come out and speak. Like Jack Harlow should come out and speak. Drewski should come out and speak about what he witnessed, but nobody does, and that's unfortunate.
So we're just what, 2 months away from May, and Diddy's supposed to go to trial. How do you think that's going to pan out at this point?
Yes, sir. You know, I don't know. Like the people who are publishing my book, I have a great team. I can't wait to reveal all this stuff for you. They like for the book, they have hired private investigators. They've hired lawyers to vet everything out so we don't get any kind of defamation. So to have them in my corner, the information that they're giving me and the information that the confirmations that we're getting is insane. Like it's like I'm working with some very serious people that are very passionate about taking down the human trafficking, sex trafficking rings, the power, the elite that's been happening for so long. And so a lot of the book dives into that, right? So I'm excited about that because I just want justice, you know.
Yeah, we had Bob Marley's daughter on last week, and she's coming on again on Wednesday night. And she's pretty much talking about and confirming a lot of the things you're saying, about the initiations and how these people sacrifice for fame, what they do, and even give their kids up and things like that. It's really intense, and it's good that more and more people are shining a light on this. I think you'd be very interested to hear what Zara Marley
Yeah.
has to say. All right, viewers, get your questions in the chat for Jonathan Hay. We've got his Instagram, we've got his X in the description box. And so far, we've talked about Depp and Diddy and Jag. But if you've got any questions about the industry, put them in. All right, so Kamari wants to know what happened to River Phoenix.
I have no idea, but that was another one of those weird situations that happened at Depp's Viper Room Club. They all party, like they do so much drugs. I've heard that he died on that River died from Johnny's drugs. I've seen his drugs. I mean, the quantities was like Scarface.
Wow.
I've never
All right.
never seen anything like that.
All right, you've got tons of questions just pouring in now. So, what do you think about Kanye saying his kids are being transported by the Kardashians?
You know, that's very that's very interesting, because the thing about what's happening, you know, let's call it transporting, as you said, not the other word. It seems like that might have happened with Kim, if Chris really did set up the tape, right? That made her famous. That they took a playbook out of Paris Hilton's thing that was her best friend at one time that made her famous. I mean, if she did that with her own daughter, the kids are very sexualized. I mean, it seems to be spot on, right? I mean, without question, it is blurring the line. We could say that, because these kids have been very young. When they were young, they were overly sexualized. So I agree with Kanye on that, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's really bizarre. So was Rihanna transported 10 months ago?
I would say, looking at the definition now, and that's kind of one of the things with this Diddy case has done, is we learn about these words and what it means. And being involved in Rihanna's camp from the very beginning, when she was 16 to when she turned 17, taken from another country, Barbados, brought to America, once again, overly sexualized. You know, this is a child. This is a person that can't even go into a bar and drink alcohol. So to me, I would say, yes, Jay-Z, in my opinion, trafficked Rihanna 100%. I mean, how can we say that it's not trafficking?
So Tiff wants to know if you still have
You're talking about
relations with
16 and 17-year-old child
Tiff wants to know if you still have a
with
relations with
Rihanna.
Rihanna.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, with their camp, and with everything else, yes, of course, they always touch down with me. I think they get frustrated when I speak out about this stuff, but that rumor that happened, 20 years ago in 2005, it always keeps coming up. So, like, I can't stop that. It always happens. There's always a different press article about that. It's crazy.
You got a few people asking if you knew Isaac Cappy or you know the story of Isaac Cappy.
I don't.
Shay wants to know if you think Rihanna would ever come forward.
I really thought she was, because when Jason Lee from Hollywood Unlocked, he started to talk about, he was kind of talking, he was being a journalist. He was seeing both sides and thought that Jay-Z and Beyonce were being weird. And then I would see pictures of him and Rihanna, how close they were hanging out. I was like, and he had a source. Jason Lee has a source. I was like, oh my gosh, Rihanna's finally going to come out. Jay-Z's finally going down. And then, last week we see her with Blue Ivy, right? So I'm like, man, I don't know,
Yeah.
I don't know.
All right. So next question.
I wish she would.
Could it be Rihanna doesn't come forward because the risk it might have on her kids?
Absolutely. But Rihanna is just as big a star as Jay-Z and Beyonce. So she has just as much power. So, I mean, I wish she would.
Okay. All right. Next thing is, do you believe Kris Jenner is in a relationship with Corey B?
Seems that way. I don't know too much about that.
Okay. Can you talk about RHCP? I don't even know what RHCP is, do you?
Red Hot Chili Peppers, I think.
Oh yeah. Okay.
I don't know. I just know that they worked in DEPP Studio a lot, right? At that home
Right.
studio. So like being in his home studio. being in his home studio was amazing, right? It's like, wow, we're in Depp's home studio in his house where he recorded with all kinds of like major people. Like he wants to collaborate with everyone. All he wants to do is music.
Yeah, I arrived in America in '91, and they were playing the Chili Peppers all the time on the radio. I'll never forget it. All right, so
All the time.
the Blue Couch is being allegedly putting on content for cash with unreliable witnesses. Your thoughts?
I don't believe that.
I have no idea about any of that.
I've never received a payment for any interview or anything that I've done or really hear about it. To be honest, I don't think so.
Katz wants to know if you have any thoughts on Corey Feldman's documentary. The two Coreys, I watched it. Quite harrowing.
I haven't seen it yet. I want to. Obviously, a huge fan, and it was weird when I was in Dallas. His brother Eden and I became really close, and so. But I haven't really paid too much attention of what Corey has going on. But it definitely seems like he has a lot of trauma, and he was definitely there at the highest level. He was great friends with River Phoenix. That'd be a question to ask him. I'm sure I would love to hear Corey Feldman talk about Johnny Depp because I do know that Corey Feldman has said that there's some mystery people back in the day that were involved. Like he would know. I'm sure he could give some answers about Johnny Depp because they ran in the same circles with River Phoenix.
Jonathan, do you know Diddy's head of security, Mohammed? He was also Michael Jackson's head of security.
I heard the name as we're writing the book, but I don't know.
FF is asking, have you heard any details about Angie Stone?
I haven't, but what's weird is so after we did the Rihanna project with the producer, the next project that we did was Hillary Duff, and then it was Angie Stone, the same producer that did Pond to Replay. We worked with Angie Stone on a song called I Wasn't Kidding. And it was like one of my biggest disappointments in my career because I wasn't able to capitalize on any of the press or anything. It was really unfortunate, you know?
Question from HC. How do you feel about Kendrick? He has co-signed Diddy plenty of times in the past and seems to have some sort of relationship with Jay per the Super Bowl.
Well, he does have a relationship with Jay-Z because the Super Bowl is done by Rock Nation and Jay-Z's the head of Rock Nation. But, you know, I don't know anything about Kendrick. I'm a fan of Kendrick. I love the way he bodied Drake because, you know, Drake is one of my ops, right, that a lot of people believe was involved in my home invasion. Right. So I love the fact that Kendrick bodied Drake. So I hope not, but who knows?
What's your thoughts on Depp having spent time at Disney dressed up as Captain Jack Sparrow, and your thoughts on underground tunnels?
That's exactly what I'm talking about. That kind of stuff. And that's why I feel that I have to come out and speak about those very things. And there's this thing I want to tell you real quick too about since I've been doing these podcasts, there's some information that's came forward about Prosper Arts District. It's outside of Dallas in Frisco, Texas. And I was told that Diddy was involved. This is all alleged that Diddy was involved, and that was going to be like the Walt Disney World of sex trafficking, right? With underground tunnels connecting to the hotels, you know, advertising to celebrities. And my team that are putting together the book with the investigative journalists, with the private investigators, with the lawyers, have found some connections with some strippers, with some dancers. I don't mean to say strippers, dancers, you know, sex workers about this Prosper Arts District. So that'd be another thing. If people have information about Prosper Arts District, what we know, it is very corrupt, and it was connected to Diddy right outside of Dallas, because Diddy's main office, Combs Global, Combs Enterprise, that was run by his right-hand woman, KK, was based in Dallas, Texas, right? So it's weird that all these things have happened to me from Dallas, Texas, right?
So Amy wants to know if there will be another scandal unearthed after Diddy because of what gets found out via the evidence. I think she means the Diddy evidence, the case.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I don't know. I hope so. You know, I think that, you know, Diddy's as bad as it gets. Right?
What was the creepy music video with Depp and Manson?
That was a song called Say 10, which is spelled SAY, number 10. That is dark. Watch that. That is absolutely, absolutely dark. They're like on some real weird stuff. It's Johnny Depp starring in a video with Marilyn Manson. It's crazy.
You've got a few people asking if you can
You know?
expand on.
It just kind of shows like their weirdness.
You got a few people asking if you can expand on how close Depp and Manson were.
Oh my gosh, super close, super close. Let me pause this. Can I pause this real quick?
Yes, of course.
I'm so sorry.
That's all right. Do you need to have a run for the?
How do I pause it? Stop cam, or what do I do?
No. I mean, I can just
Yeah,
keep talking to
I'll
the
be
viewers.
right.
Do you
I'll be
need to
right
take a
back.
break? Okay, yeah, go for it. I'll do a quick.
Just give me like 2 minutes.
Yeah, I'll do a quick commercial break. So thanks for all your questions, guys. We have got Zara coming back on, Bob Marley's daughter, on Wednesday. And tomorrow night we've got Ricky Colleen talking about Tommy Robinson. But we'll do a quick break. Here's the, what should we do? Node, Shopify. Let's do Shopify. Here's the Shopify.
What that means? Ooh, I've been hearing that a lot lately. That's what I hear when we make another sale on Shopify, the all-in-one commerce platform to start, run, and grow your business. Shopify is the commerce platform revolutionizing millions of businesses worldwide. Whether you're selling Pokemon cards or hoodies, Shopify simplifies selling online and in person so you can successfully grow your business. Covering all your sales channels from a shop-front-ready POS system to its all-in-one e-commerce platform. Shopify even gets you selling across social media marketplaces like Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Full of the industry-leading tools ready to ignite your growth, Shopify gives you complete control over your business and your brand without learning new skills in design or coding. And thanks to award-winning help and with an extensive business course library, Shopify is ready to support your success every step of the way. What's lovely about Shopify is that no matter how big you want to grow, Shopify will be there to empower you with the confidence and control to take your business to the next level. It's time to get serious about selling and get Shopify today. This is Possibility, powered by Shopify. Sign up for a £1 per month trial period at shopify.co.uk/Sean, SHAUN, all lowercase. Go to shopify.co.uk/Sean to take your business to the next level today. Shopify.co.uk/Sean. Link in description box if you're watching this on YouTube. Thanks for supporting our sponsor. Back to the podcast. Cheers.
All right. Jonathan is back. And thank you, viewers,
How's it
for
going?
all of your. Yeah, it's going really good, man. You've got almost 2,000 people watching live. We've got 40 questions. We're backed up with loads and loads of questions. If you're okay to keep answering the questions.
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
Let's see. Any thoughts on Drake's current situation downfall? That's from Becky.
Oh man, like so Drake, as I said, if people didn't watch the very first thing that we did, Jaguar, found out some information about Drake possibly being involved in the home invasion. And at least if he wasn't involved in the actual home invasion, he definitely taunted it, right? And like he's giving me like a real hard time. He's like involved. You got involved with like my ex-fiance. It was just really like toxic and everything else. So I thought Drake was over, but it seems like he's getting some momentum again. So I'm a hater. I'm a Drake hater. Don't ask me about Drake because I want to see him. I want to see him. I want to see him fall completely. I want it to be over. So with Drake.
Yeah, the whole home invasion story is in part 1 that we did with
Look at look at
Jonathan.
look at look at my Drake photo. Can you see what it says across his face?
I can't see now, but I can see the photo.
The red across his face. It says
See the
PDF
red. Oh
PDF
my
file.
goodness. My
PDF
goodness.
file.
For the people who are not familiar with the home invasion story, Jonathan, you just want to give them a little summary of it.
Yeah, so it's April 20th, 2017, right? Me and my daughter, she was 14 at the time. It was past midnight, and we would do these kind of things where we would drive like down River Road in Louisville, and she would just play me like all her music on her playlist, and we would get to spend, time together. Like my after the home invasion, my parents found out about it, and they were like, and the police were like, "Why would you take your daughter, out at midnight and drive down the road?" And it's like, okay, she is making great grades in school. So what she'd do is she would she would come home from school and she would sleep. She's on a really odd schedule like mine, and she would stay up all night, and she would stay up all night until she went to school, go to school early, thrive and accelerate, and then she would go to sleep during the day. It wasn't productive, right? It wasn't normal, but it was working for her, right? And whatever was working for her, she was getting good grades. She was happy, right? But she was on an opposite schedule. So it was after midnight. We went through, it was like 12:01. The police said with the timeline, we went through like a Taco Bell, and we were coming back home to my place. And as we're walking up to the door, I felt my daughter push into my side, like as I'm putting the key in the doorknob. I felt her push like, my side in, like, hurry. And I looked to my left. And as soon as I looked to my left, we're getting attacked, pistol whooped, and thrown into the door. I fell to the ground, and I remember my daughter like falling over me. And I was so stunned. Like, I didn't know if it was like my stepdad, like, trying to like scare us, because you're not thinking in a time like that, like, because we're out so late. I didn't know what it was, like if it was really happening, because when you're pistol whooped, I didn't feel the wound at all. But she falls over me. She falls so hard that her glasses broke, right? And they pushed me into a chair. They duct tape my eyes. They duct tape my hands. Um, and at that point, I couldn't see, and we were held for 2 hours. And it was the most traumatic experience I've ever been through in my life. It's because they were looking for a safe that I didn't have. And the whole time I thought I was going to die. And I was praying. I was praying to God that if I survive this, I'm never going to do any kind of violent music like I've done in the past ever again, because I felt guilty that some of the music that I had promoted in the past as a publicist, because when you become a publicist and you get clients at a high level, you're not even thinking of it as what the energy is that's being said, right? But it's violent. It's a lot of gangster rap music, and I swore, to God during my prayer that if we survive this, that I'll never do any kind of music like that. And after 2 hours, we survived, and the three people who were involved, they all went to prison, and they were sentenced to. They all pled guilty, which was great that we didn't have to relive, a lot of that. They're like a long court case. They all pled guilty to kidnapping and robbery charges, and yeah, it was the most terrifying thing. But the worst thing about it is up until that moment, my 14-year-old, she was the closest thing to me. We were like best friends, and then I was like her like superhero, and now I'm her trauma, right? Because our relationship is nowhere near, like, to be honest, like we don't even have we don't have a relationship right now. She's pregnant, and I don't want anybody to say like the G word, like I'm going to be a grandfather, because I'm still too young, right? But I reach out to her. I talk about her as much as I can. Hopefully that she sees the interview, and hopefully she's these interviews and stuff, because I love her like more than anything in the world. But I'm her trauma, right? When she thinks of me, when she thinks of the pain, she thinks of us being duct taped and held hostage, and you know, almost dead. So I don't know. I mean, that's my daughter. I was so great to her. I know eventually we're gonna be on good terms again. I'm waiting for that moment. So, and there's a thing that I haven't really, talked about that took place in that situation that just makes it so extra traumatic, which is one of the reasons that I'm so passionate about blowing the whistle and trying to get justice for kids and other people, because it's such a dark industry. It's such a dark business. And that's why it's like, okay, I got to speak out about Johnny Depp, and I got to speak out about Billy Russell, and I got to speak out about Diddy, and I got to speak out about Jay-Z, because I know what I've been through, right? And we should have been dead. Like, we thought for sure that we were going to die, and it's going to be 8 years this April. There's not a day that it doesn't replay, and the trauma that it's done to me, I'll never escape. So she's doing so good. She finished college. She has a career, and she's done way better than I have. And I think she just blocks it all out, where I can't. I've been through counseling. I've been through ketamine therapy, and not from like in the streets. I'm talking about through like trauma, where you go into a doctor's office, and that's like a Band-Aid, but nothing. I can't. It recycles a lot, Sean, and I constantly go to that place. Like in that one interview that we did last time, you could tell that I was like, I was in that place because it was cycling, right? And once it happens, like it's something that I can't escape.
Yeah, you're far more grounded this time, which is fantastic to see. And there was a moment in the story, I mean, just for the viewers, just to understand how intense this was, where the perpetrators were playing Russian roulette with Jonathan, and he really thought his life was over, and his daughter's right there. Can you imagine being in a situation like that? You've got your child right there next to you, and you think it's all over. I cannot imagine the trauma and the stress that would put on the human system. The only way to fully understand what you've been through is to actually have lived that experience, which is extremely rare for people. So, our hearts go out to you, man, because not many of us look death in the face that closely and live to tell the tale.
Right. And see, the thing about that in that moment is because I was duct taped. So I assumed that she was duct taped too. But what they said when, when they pled guilty, and we faced them in the courtroom, um, and what the detectives had told us is, she's 14. She has a lot of hair, big hair. They're looking from across the parking lot when they attack us. They didn't realize that she was a 14-year-old. But when they attacked us and they got up on her, that's when they were like, "Oh my God." Right? So they didn't duct tape her. But this whole time I'm thinking that she's duct taped. And what this guy would do is he would put a pillow up to my head. I would feel like the pillow from the couch. And I would, and the steel, and he pressed the gun like through the pillow, and you could feel the steel going up against my head. And the whole time I was just like bracing myself. It's like, okay, my brains are about to get blown out. And the whole time what I was like thinking is like, okay, this is it. And hopefully they'll spare my daughter, but I'm not going to beg for my life, and I'm not going to be a coward. I'm just going to be as strong as I can. She's not going to see me weak. This is it. These are the last moments of my life. I want her to see me be as strong as possible, and hoping, okay, if they kill me, hopefully they'll spare her.
Jesus. Oh my God. All right, let's get off this subject. So Trevor wants to know if you think Jag will be cleared. Do you remember this? You know, this lawsuit that's come out recently, and it had a bunch of our podcast guests in it. It was almost as if AI had written it.
Mhm.
Trevor wants to think if Jaguar will be cleared of all of this.
She hasn't been charged with anything, right?
I don't believe so. No, it's just
No.
an allegation in a.
Yeah, for sure. I think so. Absolutely. I think Jaguar, she came under attack a lot by a lot of haters when she went to the Trump's Mar-a-Lago and she got the Defender of the Freedom Award. You know, I think she got a lot of hate and jealousy from receiving that award.
Yeah. Beverly Rhodes, who is one of our most fantastic guests and co-hosts, she's a remote viewer and a healer, and she's asking if she has permission to send healing energy directly to you and your daughter.
Please, please. I welcome anything that can heal our relationship because I miss her every day, and her her daughter, her child is supposed to be born next month, right? So I would do anything. I'm down for
Ba-
anything. Down for all the prayers, down for all the healing energy, down for anything that's going to bring us back together.
So Bailey is asking how long was the sentence the perpetrators for the home invasion?
They got 10 years each because they pled guilty. They should have got longer, but we didn't have to go through the years and years of process and court dates. They quickly pled guilty and they all got 10 years for kidnapping and robbery charges.
So when will they get out?
So in Kentucky, I think it's like 85-15%. I think, because I'm involved in the Vine, they would always get the phone notifications and I turned it off. I think that two of them are out already because this would be the 8 years or they're getting out. I know one of them is out, you know.
Lisa wants to know if you think Depp's nephew will ever speak out about what he told you.
I think he's going to have to. I think if we put the pressure on, I think if the people, because listen, it's the people that brought down Diddy. It's the people that got together that did it. The power's in the people. So if more people can get together to put pressure on the Johnny Depp situation, then I think that he would have to. But you kind of got to understand, like, this is his livelihood. This is how he makes his money. This, like, what else is he going to do? Like, this is his career. Like, I don't know. I have no idea. I hope so. But Sean, I think Johnny Depp I think he's one of the worst humans. Stuff that I've witnessed, stuff that I've heard. I think he's one of the worst humans in the world.
So what happened with the movie Depp did about Russell Poole regarding Biggie and Pac?
So that's the movie that I was talking about. So I was working with the Biggie estate. I signed with the Biggie estate, right? You can Google that. That we put out a song. It was with me and CJ Wallace, Biggie's only son, and we put out the project. Like I said, we went viral, and at the same time we're doing that. That's when Diddy. That's when that movie came out. City of Lies is what it's called, and it bombed. Valletta Wallace was like a big supporter. So, I mean, like I said, I lost all those projects at once at the same time, right? It was and Depp was also close to Diddy, right? Because they all ran together. So they all have the same dealers and the same dancers and the same, type of people. That's why these people saying this is bigger than Diddy, right? I mean, he can't just do this on his own. He's not at the top. There's people over him. People have said it's different people. I've heard like Bill Gates and everything like that. But I mean, we're talking about Johnny Depp he's high up there, right? He's one of the people because of his friends are so powerful. And that's why I want to see people come forward and speak out against him.
What did you think of Bill Gates' wife outing Bill Gates minimizing his relationship with Epstein?
That's what I'm saying. It's so corrupt. I think that's absolutely crazy.
All right, next question. Do you think anyone else in the Depp family know about this allegation from Depp's nephew?
I do. Absolutely. I think Depp's sisters both know, but everybody's more worried about everybody's making millions of dollars and the paycheck, so I think that they overlook it, which happens a lot in families, sadly, right? It's like people know about it, but I mean, how do you really handle a situation like that? I know the way that I would handle the situation like that. I mean, it's gonna be a problem.
You're getting asked if you know anything about Depp and Tim Burton.
I don't, just besides their movies.
Okay. Let's see. Let me just get the next one up. I'm not sure who this is. Vada Nobles. Can you tell us about Vada Nobles?
Yeah, Veda Nobles. He's the producer of Ponde Replay, and he's the one that I did Ponde Replay with Rihanna with him. Then we did Hillary Duff, and then we did Angie Stone. Like I was telling you, I wasn't kidding. But Veda Nobles, he sued Lauryn Hill. So when I met Veda, that he was the one who introduced me to the Rihanna camp. Right, I was working with Whitney Houston's father's company, John Houston Entertainment, and they were both from New Jersey. And so when I met him, he needed to do some damage control of suing Lauryn Hill for the miseducation of Lauryn Hill, saying that he produced the record with a bunch of people. So we started working on Rihanna, Ponde Replay. And when I first heard Ponde Replay with Veda Nobles, he had like the worst drums. And so I produced music as well. And I had sampled Will Smith's, there's a song Will Smith did called Switch at the time. And there was like this vinyl that's put out, the B-side, where he had this instrumental remix with these drums. And so the drums that you hear in Ponde Replay right now is I sampled those from Will Smith's Switch from one of his remix. And then we jazzed them up and put them out. And then I replayed all the drums, I put them out. And then he took my drum track and said that he did it. And it's like, bro, like I put all that stuff together. So I plan on suing Veda Nobles at some point because this has been 20 years. I've received no royalties from Ponde Replay. And I should be one of the songwriters, on that song because the drums are what makes it pop and stick, and the lyrics, like the lyrics that I helped him come up with, like, the Ponde Replay song is, run, 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 everybody run, run. So we had this song that I was working with Veda Nobles. It was called Reruns. And the song was like RERUN, started over, started over again. NERUR, started over, it stops. So we run, 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 run. Everybody run, run, rerun, rerun, da 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 da, rerun. And that became the hook for Ponde Replay that I was a songwriter in, and I still never got credit, right? I still never got publishing. I still never got royalties. It's absolute crazy. So, what can I tell you about Veda Nobles? He's a scumbag that owes me millions of dollars.
Deanne wants to know, is there anyone in the movie or music industries that are not implicated, compromised?
I would have to say, yeah, I'm sure there's some good people, right? There has to be,
Well, a lot of names have come up. I'll run them by you. We've got Tom Hanks.
I've heard that. That would be so strange.
Ozzy Osbourne.
I mean, he's just a nutbag total. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised, right? Like anybody's gonna bite a bat's head off on stage is nuts.
Keanu Reeves.
Oh, I hope Keanu Reeves seems like you'd be one of the good ones. Neo?
Yeah, I agree. Naomi Campbell.
I'm not for sure.
The Kardashians.
Oh, I think we all know what that talking about. I mean, that could be Satan's family directly. I have no idea. You know,
Sorcery.
that is that yeah, that's wild.
Why are Kate Moss and Vanessa Paradis in so much praise of Depp?
I don't know. Who knows? I mean, just because you're good with, Jeffrey Dahmer and, these serial killers, they had friends and they had neighbors that they weren't killing. And then he had other people that he would meet at the bar and he would kill them and eat them, right? So it doesn't matter. Like, like some of the worst people were good to other people.
Eminem.
I met Eminem. I was in Eminem's studio. So I used to work with Slaughterhouse, with this rapper named Crooked Eye, who's now King Crooked. Shout out to King Crooked. And we were doing this TV show called One Shot. And he took us, he was signed to Eminem. He was signed to Shady Records, because Slaughterhouse is a group that is Crooked Eye, Joe Budden, Joel Ortiz, and Royce da 5'9". So he took us to Eminem studio and it was mind blowing. I met Eminem. He was exactly like you'd imagine him to be. He was like stuck back in the day. He had like CDs and vinyls and cassettes everywhere, an arcade in his studio. His studio was literally, and this is Eminem at the top. His studio was literally in the hood. And I remember pulling up thinking, this is really Eminem's studio, a building. But if you look closer as you walked upon it, you'd be like, oh, that's like a triple chain link fence with like prison stuff at the top where you couldn't get in, and you have armed security and everything else. So yeah, it was in the hood, right? It was on 8 Mile for sure. But I mean, it was well protected. And I think people in Detroit love Eminem so much because he's so supportive. And they say he like walks around, but he was super kind to me. He was super amazing. And we had this song that I did with Crooked Eye. It was called Ashamed. And he like broke down the song. He was like, I know where you got those drums. I know where you did this. He was just a genius.
So, do you think Gene Hackman was a good egg? And do you think his unaliving was suspicious?
It all seems suspicious with the wife and the dog, but it seems like it cleared up. It seems like it's been cleared up lately, but the responses definitely seem suspect. Maybe. I don't know.
Ice Cube.
Ice Cube, I had some dealings with him with this Rare Ink project. Really good guy. Huge fan of NWA. I haven't heard anything bad about Ice Cube.
Brittany Murphy and other strange pneumonias.
The Brittany Murphy thing was very strange, right? As she was very healthy and she died in the shower shortly like after she did 8 Mile. I thought that was very strange. But I don't know anything about that.
Your thoughts on Amber Heard?
I think she was set up. I think that it's kind of like when you're an athlete and you're competing in a game and you're losing momentum and you're just losing. And she knew that she was losing and TikTok was all against her and everybody had turned against her. And she knew the powers that she was up against. I think that it just really, like, her career hasn't been the same, and Johnny Depp's career is back on the rise. And that's another reason why I'm speaking out. Like, there's no way that Disney could let a guy that have those kind of accusations without investigating them, right? If I have people that are publishing my book that are investigating all the things that I'm doing, Disney should be doing the same thing. So, and before they cast him again as Captain Jack Sparrow, I hope they do their due diligence. I would love for, the police to come talk to me about Johnny Depp. I would love to tell them anything they know. I'm here. They know where to find me. So I would love to see Johnny Depp behind bars because he belongs there, in my opinion.
Do you know anything about MIA and the Bronfman family?
I don't.
Okay. Next one is, what do you think about Johnny Depp's support of the Memphis Three?
I really don't know much about that. So since I've came out and spoke about it, people have been hitting me up with these things about the Memphis Three and all these different things. And I've been overwhelmed with some of the stuff that I've got. I don't know too much about it, except
Yeah, there's a few good films, documentaries about them that I've watched. Very interesting in case. Thoughts on Wendy Williams?
it seems like it's a bit confusing about her because one, she says she's okay, and then some say she's not, and other people say she's okay, then other people say she's not. I have no idea, but at one time she was, she was at the top of the, in the media landscape. Like I was a huge fan of Wendy Williams. I hope she's okay.
This recent news about Kanye North and the Diddy song.
So like I'm saying, like as a fan of Kanye West, right? Like he doesn't that's one of those things that I wish he wouldn't do. Like why would you put, your daughter on a song with a guy who is in jail right now in Brooklyn waiting on trial for human sex trafficking? I get it that he thinks that he's innocent and he thinks that he's been set up. But it's like, come on, Kanye, especially after putting out such a profound album with Jesus is King and doing the whole, Christian music thing, which I thought was amazing. Like when Kanye put out the Christian album, I was like, because I'm a Christian, right? I was like, wow, this is what Christian music needs. And to see him backtrack is very scary for people who know the word and for people who study the Bible to learn about the truth and then to backpedal like he's been doing is I would feel very scared if I was Kanye. But such an influence on music and fashion and Yeezys. Like Yeezys are my favorite shoes of all time.
Mm.
The most comfortable shoes in the world. So
So here's a question from my partner Jen, who waved at you earlier about this story that's been in the news. What's your knowledge on the Blake Ryan saga?
So that goes traces back to the PR firm that was Melissa Nathan was involved in that, was part of the smear campaign that was involved in the smear campaign against Amber when the Johnny thing. She was in a smear campaign against me, right? I've dealt with that stuff, and it all comes from a person by the name of Melissa Nathan. New York Times just exposed her big time, for the stuff she does. And this ABC writer that I just did a story with her a few weeks ago. She left ABC. She's doing her own site and stuff. She put out a really, really good story. So I'll send you the link, when we get off, and then it's a profound story where she breaks down, the Blake situation with Melissa Nathan, the publicist.
What do you think Justin Bieber's been through, and will he talk?
Justin Bieber definitely sounds like he's definitely seems like someone who's been through trauma. As a person like me who's been through a lot of trauma, we can recognize that, right? And I mean, when the Diddy trial happens, it's going to be, will we see all these people, are they going to be subpoenaed? This because this is feds, this is federal. So will we see Justin Bieber on the stand? Will we see Jay-Z on the stand? Who are we going to see on the stand? Like I think it's gonna be the craziest trial that we've ever seen.
Ziva wants to know your thoughts on all these Kanye and his wife headlines, going back to the see-through outfit to all these other shenanigans they've pulled in recent weeks.
It just goes back to what I was saying about him being a believer, putting out that Christian music, gospel, him doing the Sunday service, and him kind of like denouncing some of his past and then like doing all that stuff.
TT wants to know, what do you predict the changes will be for the entertainment industry moving forward?
I think the changes are going to be we're getting rid of, Diddy's gone. Jay-Z, without question, whether he ever gets arrested or anything, Like I think he's over, right? Like his power structure, more people are paying attention, right? We take out people like Johnny Depp, we take out, these strong people, and it's going to crumble. I think the music industry is in a much better place with these people gone.
Beverly's saying the rumors have the three new kings are Drake, Eminem, and 50 Cent. Any views on this?
I love 50 Cent. I think 50 Cent with his documentaries and everything. I love going to his Instagram. I love how he speaks out against Diddy. I love how he seems, to really want justice for the victims. Eminem has always been relevant, but see, once again, there's that Drake. I'm not objective. Like I, I don't want to think Drake is a king, especially with him taunting me like he did after the home invasion.
I used to love Prince when I was a teenager. I was obsessed for a bit. So Susan wants to know, what do you think about Prince and his demise?
So, I mean, fentanyl, that's the craziest thing, man. Like the pain pills or whatever, he got a hold of. I actually worked with Prince back in the day, back in 2020, back in 2001. We did a cover song of the Staple Sisters. It's called "When Will We Be Paid," and I got to work with Prince on that song. It charted. It was amazing, like to be around him and to have that credit of working with Prince. Yeah, it wasn't one of his biggest songs. People don't really know it, but people Google it. When will we be paid? And I was part of that project. It's amazing. It's
What
Prince.
what was his energy, his aura like?
Oh man, like everything that you imagine it to be. Like, what Dave Chappelle says, like, I mean, can't look him in the eyes. Like he's a true star. Like he's one of those people that you meet and it's like, oh my gosh. Like I've met some celebrities who you kind of get disappointed because they're humanized a little bit, right? But Prince came, when you saw Prince, he was Prince 24/7, 365. I went out to his studio in Minnesota, Paisley Park, and I got to work in his studio. Amazing, right? He would come by and you would just be like, oh my gosh, it's Prince. You start sweating, getting starstruck, like want to faint, you know? It was amazing. And one of the guys that I met from Prince's camp, who's been a friend of mine, was one of the guys from Parliament Funkadelic, right? He was the drummer. His name is Bigfoot, Jerome Bigfoot Braley. He wrote "Give Up the Funk," right? But from P Funk, he was really close to Prince, So and one of Prince's biggest influences was Parliament Funkadelic. So it's an honor, Sean, the people that I've worked with. And that's what I'm telling you, working with the people, these names that I'm dropping. And then once I did Biggie and Diddy, and this is in 2021, I went ice cold. Ice cold. Once Johnny Depp threatened me, I'm going to break your jaw in two places. I'm going to shut down your career. He did. And Billy's a part of that.
Oh
So
my
that's what I'm
God.
saying, like that's another reason too. I'm mad. Like I've said this before. I feel like this is the way I feel. I feel like the bride from Kill Bill, and my story would be Kill Billy Russell. But I feel like the bride from Kill Bill, that I was left for dead, buried alive, and now I'm coming back, sharpen my sword, and I'm cutting everybody's head off that did that to me, Sean, that put me down, that duct taped me, that ruined the relationship with my daughter, that split apart my family, that really affected my career. I'm coming after all of them.
Don't mess with a man on a mission. So the
Exactly.
question is, do you think Prince's song Uptown was about Diddy?
I'm not sure. It's a good question. Diddy was
I'm trying,
more, well, Uptown. Was Uptown Harlem?
I'm trying to think of the lyrics. I can't remember the lyrics. I used to know a lot of Prince lyrics.
So my girl here, she says that I was like, is Uptown Harlem? right where where Diddy's from? And she said, yeah, it's uptown is Harlem, Washington Heights, and Inwood. So maybe it is.
All right, next one is do you think Depp and Diddy are affiliated?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know anything about Robin Antin?
I don't.
Iron Maiden or Avenged Seven?
I'm not sure.
Lou Taylor?
Lou Taylor, of course, but I don't know anything about him.
Erykah Badu?
Another Dallas person. I've got a funny story. So when I was when we were doing the Biggie project, right? And we're in Dallas, Texas, in this mansion. It was this like the internet calls it the most expensive rental in Texas, and that's what we were finishing the Biggie Bad Boy project that we had done in Dallas. And Erica Badu's ex DOC was there, and one of my friends was like, because I'd worked with DOC back in the day, and I was like, he was like, he's out he's just out and he's chilling in the living room. So it's like a mile away from the house. I'm walking over, can't wait to see him. And he's like getting it on with like his girlfriend and this thing, and I'm like, oh my gosh, whoops, holy crap. There's the DOC. I was like, oh my gosh. And he just looked at me like, bro, what are you doing? Because I was shocked. I was like, wait, is this really happening? So
You've got was Rihanna ever in a relationship with Jay-Z?
I think so, absolutely. If I had a bet on it, I would say yes, because being there, yeah.
Have you ever tried rapid eye movement therapy? It gets really good results. I've tried it. It's very effective.
Really?
Yeah, I'd recommend it.
Okay, I'll try it for sure.
You basically just think about your trauma and you move your eyes in this way, and it moves the trauma to a different part of the brain. And then when you think about trauma again, the intensity's gone way down, like from 10 to like 3 or 4. And then you do it again, it goes down, down, down. So then in the future, when you try and think about it, you don't feel the pain of it. It's really weird, but it works very fast.
Yeah, that might be happening. Because like people say, why do your eyes move the way they do? And so like these glasses, everybody's like, well, you wear sunglasses inside the house? You're corny. First of all, these are my prescription glasses, right? Secondly, and I'm getting older with my bags under my eyes. So thirdly, there's a bunch of reasons. And I've noticed like over the years that my eyes are doing this weird shit moving back and forth. My girl
Oh
says,
yeah.
why are your eyes doing that? I'm like, oh my gosh. So so I
Perhaps
try not to even look at the screen. So sometimes when I look away, I don't want people to see my eyes doing these weird, like, thing.
Yeah, perhaps you're naturally healing because there's a shaking therapy as well, where it shows animals shaking in the wild after they've been traumatized, and
Yeah.
that's how they're getting rid of it. Thoughts on XXX Tension's death?
So, I mean, the thing that's so profound about that is relevant to the case with me is XXX tweeted that if something happens to me or if he gets killed, Drake did it. And then he got killed.
Wow,
Sean, look that up. That's crazy.
that is
X
crazy.
XXX said if something happens to me, Drake did it, and then he gets killed. And so they try to bring that up in trial, like Law and Crime just did a story on it a few months ago. And it's wild that he said that and then that happened. So I think Drake is involved in a lot of stuff. Shout out to Drake.
Marissa wants to know if you've ever seen any demonic rituals.
Happen in the studio. Yeah.
Or anywhere.
Yeah. I see that. I think it's all if we're coming together and we're putting out energy with music and we're writing songs and we're doing that, I think that's all very ritualistic, and we're tapping into that energy and we're putting out stuff that isn't glorifying or isn't positive. Then I think we're all taking part of that. demonic rituals. And that's what happened to me during the home invasion that I felt so convicted of, is because like I like, as a publicist, like if I'm a publicist for, a water company or a food company, or or a vegetarian meal, and even if I didn't eat it, it's my job to publicize it, right? So I would take on a lot of jobs in the music industry and not even really listen to their music and not really like it, but I'm promoting that stuff. So that's why I was like, I'll never promote anything that is violent or negative in the world. And so when I signed with the Biggie estate, Valletta Wallace, who just recently passed away, the reason why the Biggie estate signed me is because I was taking Biggie's violent rap music and we were turning it into house and techno songs. So the song that we put out, Big Papa, it was all instrumental music with the jazz influence. And Valletta was really excited about it because it was all very positive. And then Diddy got involved, and next thing you know, the it's brought down.
All right. Did you work alongside Cipher Sounds when working
Cypher
with
Sound,
Rihanna?
yeah,
Cypher.
he was part of he helped promote the first song for Ponder Replay.
All right. Get your final questions in, folks. We have got quite a few backed up. We'll try and get through as many as possible. Have you cleared the lower frequency energy from studio rituals yet, as they can attach and linger for centuries unless totally cleared?
Yeah, so when I was in Louisville, Kentucky, I went to this place where I did some prophetic word. And a friend told me that I should go and listen to the prophetic word. And I was like, oh my gosh, no, I don't believe in this stuff. So I went. It was called, what was the name of the place? It was like right after the home invasion. I can't think of what it was, but I went. I was desperate for anything. And I sat down with these two older women and they started praying about me. And the whole time I'm like, all right. They started speaking in tongue, prophetic word. And they were like they could feel in my past that I had been involved in some, I had some dark spirits and some satanic spirits, some witchcraft is what they called it, that I've been involved in. And I was like, no, I haven't. And then all of a sudden, as they're praying, these two older women speaking in tongues, I started to think about Jay-Z and I started to think about some of the stuff I've witnessed. And then they start saying, he's starting to see it. He's starting to see it. He's starting to see it. And they were like, we break off these, generation bondage and these traumas. We break off, we pray for healing. And it was the most profound thing that I've ever been in. So I'm a 100% believer in things like that in the prophetic word. It actually helped, and it actually like broke some of those spiritual things that have been attached to me for decades. Some of the witchcraft. I didn't even realize that I was involved in that stuff, right? But I was in a place that was so dark where I was duct taped with my daughter. So there was definitely a lot of witchcraft and dark spirits around me. And I try to stay positive all the time. And that's why I got so into raves and house music, is because it's so healing. And going to raves and like, you would see like, like 60, 70, 80-year-old people and then 20-year-old people and everybody like, all the races coming together in raves. Yeah, a lot of people are under like, you know, um, different substances and stuff, but it was like so positive and so healing. That was one of the things that was also very healing that I did in Brooklyn and Los Angeles, was going to raves and underground parties and getting real involved in house music. And there wasn't, most of it isn't lyrics. So you're not hearing a lot of like negative lyrics coming at you. It's just music and beats and just, I got so into it, and
I think I'm more empathogenic because of that scene, because the vibration, the energy, everyone's just happy and opening up and just bonding. It's not like certain other substances, make people do really dark things, can lead to
Yeah.
dark things. It's just like a community of happy people, isn't it? Like almost a spiritual journey.
Yeah, yeah. People are like, you wear pigtails and dress weird. It's like, yo, that's from being at a rave, man. To come home with glitter all over you. It's like, it's like crazy, man. I loved it. It's like so freeing. So anybody who hasn't been to a rave and experienced house music, that's life changing. It feels like going to a church and like baptism. I love it.
Yeah, I described it as my religion. I just lived for the weekends. All
Yeah.
right, so HC's wondering whether the Illuminati controls the music industry.
Um, yeah, I don't know if they meet together, like we're the Illuminati and wear like hooded robes and all the other stuff, but I think there is a power structure that we've been, talking about through this interview of people who get together for sure, who could be called the Illuminati, absolutely 100%. And do people die and they speak of it? I mean, it seems right. We've lost a lot of great artists and a lot of great people. So.
Several questions have come in asking you about the fate of Tupac, what your thoughts are.
So another thing, I got to work with Death Row Records, right, which was very exciting. It was after Tupac died, right? It was after Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg had left, and I got to work with Suge Knight, and we were like struggling, like the label was, everybody was gone, and Suge Knight was fighting to stay alive. And I know he's in prison, and he's been speaking out a lot lately, but he was always so good to me, and you know he loved Tupac from what he's told me. I don't When people say that Suge Knight was involved in Tupac's murder, to me that's just insane because he got, like, if you're gonna set up a hit on Tupac, you're not gonna be in the car with him next to him where you can get shot yourself. And he did get grazed. Like, Suge Knight, Death Row Records, that was a wonderful experience for me.
Yeah, we interviewed Suge Knight, so if people want to check that out. It was a few months ago on the
Did you really?
podcast. Yeah, it's fascinating. He's certainly got away with words. He's quite a character.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I'll send you a link to it if you want to check it out.
Yeah, his son, Suge Knight Jr., is a friend of mine, and we collaborated on the DEPP project that became Nirvana as well. Suge Knight's son. So I would try to throw him up to like DEPP and all that. Well, yeah, well, I've got Suge Knight Jr. It's like, well, Suge Knight's in jail, bro.
So Libra, Beyonce, Jay-Z, Kanye, intellectual property theft lawsuits. Do you think they steal from others?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is there's only so many chords. There's only so many strings on the guitar. And I remember like the first lawsuit that we ever got was for this rock group that I did called Days of the New. And the artist, his name is the Travis Meeks. We got a lawsuit from Yoko Ono that we had ripped off one of Yoko Ono's and John Lennon's song, right? And I talked to the artist about it, and he was like, it was like one of their, uncommon songs. And he was like, he never, like he listened to like Pantera and Megadeth, and we were like alternative. He didn't listen to anything like that. But he, as we heard the chord structure, which is, the sort of similar, he was like, well, damn, maybe I did hear the song and get expired somewhere, like in a Starbucks or a restaurant and something. You don't even subconsciously know you're hearing it. And then you come back and it's like, you sing, you have this melody in your head or something. And then next thing you know, you're taken from someone else. And part of sampling, part of the fundamentals of hip hop is sampling, right? Because that's where hip hop came from, is sampling from records, right? Back in the day, because they couldn't get musicians and rapping over the instrumentals. So sampling is pretty common, right? And so I think Kanye's always getting sued for samples and stuff. because he's a real hip hop head, right? Like he came from Chicago, from a real hip hop guy. So I think he's got kind of the fundamentals. Like rappers would always say, like big rappers that I worked with, like if we're getting sued for a sample, that means we're making money and it's getting heard. So that means we're doing a good thing, and then we'll split the publishing if they contact us, right? So that's kind of like the old school, like hip hop ads. And I think Kanye, even though he's a billionaire, he's still like, I'm going to sample anyways, you know. So
Marissa wants to know if you think Shuggy's a good guy for real, or he just had time to fix himself.
all my experiences with Suge Knight have been amazing, funny, polite, paid very well, and just so kind and courteous. And his son is amazing as well. Like everything with Suge Knight with me has been on the up and up.
Everyone I've spoken to said he's a stand-up guy. Bailey wants to know what are you doing now, Jonathan?
Well, I have the book coming out on April 20th. Been working on the book for like the last several months. Like we finished it. It's like ready to go. Like that's what I've really been working on. I still do publicity like all the time. If it's positive and if it's something that makes sense. And I've just been speaking out and whistleblowing and going through the experiences that I've been going through, you know?
Well, look, man, you've generously spent 2 hours with us this evening. You've answered loads of questions. There's still tons more. Perhaps we could get you back at some point. And is there anything you'd like to say in conclusion to the viewers?
Man, I would just like to say that just people need to keep speaking out. People need to keep exposing the industry. People need to keep exposing, the Johnny Depps, the Diddys, the Jay-Z's of the world. And people, need to continue to, do whatever they can, because if we're silent, we're complicit. So just keep speaking out, man. Just keep talking and, keep supporting the people who are like when I did, like I told you, Tisa Tells and then Jaguar pulled me on her thing. I mean, my Instagram followers raised up like a couple 100,000. The people that send me emails, text messages, like people that I don't even know, like we're praying for you, thank you for speaking out. It's just been amazing. People giving me tips, people giving me, like stuff to look into that I'll forward over to the team that's helping with the book. Like it's amazing, Sean. It's amazing. I'm so blessed to speak to you, right? And like what you've been through and the things that you've overcome, and you're like a huge inspiration as well. So it's an honor to speak to you, man. So thank you so much for having me on your show.
Oh, well, can't wait to read your book as well. And we'll get you back on, hopefully around that time. And
Absolutely.
I'm going to close the show. You have a great rest of your day.
Thank you so much.
Much love, Jonathan. You take care of yourself, brother.
All right. You too, bro. All right, man. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Cheers. Wow. What a phenomenal guest. Thank you for all of your questions. And Jonathan's links are in the description. I'll put them in the chat again now. You can contact him on his Insta. You can follow him on his Insta. He's got his X link down there as well. And just to let you guys know what's coming up next, we've had 11 hours of content today, back to back. If you missed the podcast we did with David Macmillan, our most reoccurring guest, he's an international smuggling mastermind, escaped from death row in Thailand, all kinds of stories on 5 different continents. When this video ends, it's going to take you over to that one because it came out earlier today. Tomorrow, we've got Ricky Colleen coming on, another one of our podcast guests from a few years back, talking about will Tommy Robinson survive prison? That's at 8 p.m. UK tomorrow. Wednesday, we've got Bob Marley's daughter, Zara, coming back on for another big episode, picking up where she left off, talking about survivors, how survivors are discredited, the tunnels, Diddy, all that kind of stuff. A lot of people have been asking about Charlie Seeger Part 3, Old School Liverpool Gangster. It is now on Premiere, and I'm looking at the dashboard now. It looks like it's going to come up at the end of this month. Also, Jen, my Jen, has started her own podcast, The Unknown Podcast. I was her first guest. She asked me loads of questions I've never been asked before. I think it's going to premiere on her channel tomorrow, and then it's going to come up on my channel a week from now. But I'll share the link across the socials. We had a laugh, and she's got her own unique interviewing style. Ron's got his shows. He did a big one on Julia Wandel today, and I think he's got another one coming out on Julia tomorrow. So tons of content coming out every day. Thank you guys for tuning in and supporting the channel. And I hope I answered as many of your questions as possible. If I didn't, we will get Jonathan back to keep going with the rest of the questions, because there was dozens of them backed up. But we've had a blast anyway. And hope to see some of you tomorrow night with Ricky Colleen. Will Tommy Robinson survive prison? Speaking to a guy